Okay, so let's dive into the source material we have. It's a single report today.
Right, and it details what's been called a pretty fiery confrontation, a battle even.
Yeah, between Senator Adam Schiff and Senator John Kennedy, apparently on a talk show stage.
And the report really sets a scene, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Describes this incredibly tense atmosphere. Packed house.
Says the entire United States seemed to hold its breath. The stage was ablaze, the mood getting hotter by the minute.
It sounds intense. And you have
Yeah.
these two figures, right? Schiff, known for that sharp legal mind, very critical of Trump.
Representing that strong opposition viewpoint.
Definitely. And then Kennedy, a close Trump ally, known for his, folksy style, but also really sharp rhetoric.
A counterpuncher, the source seems to suggest, like a seasoned chess player.
Yeah. And the report frames it as this simmering power struggle. Apparently, the host set it up asking, is the case they're discussing truly evidence of abuse of power or just overblown political theater?
Which is quite the framing question.
It is. And the report, interestingly, gives away the ending pretty early to hook you in.
Right. It says Schiff eventually stormed off the stage in a fit of rage.
After taking a devastating blow from Kennedy, is how the source puts it.
A moment that apparently shook the media, went viral online instantly. A firestorm.
So our goal here is to go deeper than that clip, right? We want to unpack this report, look at the actual arguments, the points made.
Exactly. Understand what led to that walk-off. Give you a shortcut to being informed about this specific clash and maybe what it says about broader politics.
Okay, so where does the report say the confrontation started?
It kicks off with the opening arguments, focusing on the case of a Mr. Obrego Garcia. Schiff apparently led with this.
Okay. What was Schiff's angle, according to the source?
He presented Garcia, a legal resident, as suffering injustice, being deported without proper due process. Framed it as a serious sign of abuse of power.
So, not just a mistake, but something threatening the rule of law.
Precisely. And a key detail Schiff brought up was a Supreme Court ruling demanding Garcia's return.
Which the administration ignored.
That's what Schiff claimed, yeah, that the administration ignored it, and he challenged anyone defending Trump to explain that.
So how did Kennedy respond to that?
The report says Kennedy completely reframed it, called it an administrative error, nothing more.
It's just an error.
Yeah, accused Schiff of turning a mosquito into an elephant. Even used that analogy, calling it abuse of power is like saying my dog is a tiger.
Okay, that's a very Kennedy-esque line. Did the audience react?
The report says big reaction, laughter, applause. Kennedy then argued Garcia had 17 court hearings.
17.
Yep. Costing taxpayers a lot, Garcia paying nothing himself. Kennedy asked if that wasn't fair treatment.
So shifting the focus onto process and cost.
Exactly. Schiff, though, the source says he didn't accept the mistake framing.
He pushed back.
Firmly. Called wrongful deportation of a legal resident a constitutional violation.
And what about the Supreme Court point?
He came back to that. Said ignoring the court ruling puts the president above the law.
Okay, so a direct clash on the interpretation of the event.
Definitely. Kennedy's response, according to the report, he kept his smile, but his eyes got sharper. Said he wasn't defending mistakes, but challenged Schiff's whole idea that Trump was dismantling the system.
And he brought him the president of El Salvador.
Right. Pointed out President Bull had said Garcia wasn't coming back. Then he challenged Schiff. Did he want Trump to send troops, or was this just about stirring up the crowd?
Ooh, putting Schiff on the spot there. How did that land?
The report says cheers from the May J supporters in the audience. Then the host apparently stepped in.
To redirect.
Yeah, asked Schiff about that point Kennedy just made about Bull refusing Garcia's return.
Okay, so how did Schiff handle that?
Schiff, after maybe a brief moment of tension, refocused, said the issue wasn't Bull, it was the responsibility of the Trump administration.
Bringing it back to the U.S. government's actions.
Exactly. And he framed the ignored court order not as just one thing, but part of a larger pattern.
A pattern of what?
This is where he pivoted. He connected the Garcia case in action to Trump's tariff policies.
Oh, linking different issues together.
Yes. Attacked the tariffs as part of this pattern hurting ordinary people.
Yeah.
Said they drive up prices hurting the middle class. Food, electronics, cars.
So hitting on pocketbook issues.
Right. Arguing Americans are paying the price. And Trump calling it a win is like gambling with people's livelihoods. He challenged Kennedy directly. Why would his voters pay more?
How did Kennedy take that challenge? The report mentions the audience reaction.
Says the audience stirred. Kennedy apparently responded with a soft chuckle.
And his argument.
He countered that people do understand tariffs, claimed the U.S. was ripped off for decades.
Okay, the familiar bad deals argument.
Yep. Said Trump used tariffs to force the EU, Japan, others to the negotiating table. Claimed 40% of the world's nations are begging for tariff reductions.
And he called that a win.
Absolutely. With another analogy, if that's not a win, then I'm a flying pig.
Huh. I can imagine that got a reaction.
Report says the audience roared. Studio shook.
Wow. So Schiff's response to the flying pig.
Schiff pointed to skyrocketing prices as the data. Repeated that consumers bear the cost. It's gambling with people's livelihoods.
Doubling down on his point.
Yeah, and looked right at Kennedy, challenged him again. Senator, do you dare tell your voters they should pay more just so Trump can brag?
So keeping the pressure on Kennedy's constituents.
But Kennedy, report says, just kept smiling, shook his head, said Schiff paints a grim picture, but forgets something.
Which was?
That Trump is bringing jobs back, bringing manufacturing back. He argued people accept short-term pain for a better future rather than letting China keep bleeding us dry.
Another big applause line, I imagine.
Report says yes. The audience cheered him again.
Okay, so the tension is clearly building.
Yeah.
Where did the conversation go next?
The host apparently moved it on, asking Schiff for more specific evidence that these policies were deliberate abuses of power, not just policy disagreement.
Right, pushing for intent.
Schiff, described as sharp but composed, said the Garcia case was just the tip of the iceberg. He then accused the administration of abusing power to manipulate financial markets.
Okay, that's a serious accusation. Did he offer specifics?
He cited Trump's Truth Social post hyping his own stock just before the market surged, called it suspicious behavior that demands investigation.
The timing aspect.
Yeah. Schiff alleged that people close to Trump benefit, not the American people. He also brought up the JFK files declassification.
How did that fit in?
Schiff called it a political stunt just to polish his image, not about truth. The overall charge was Trump putting personal gain above the nation's interests.
Okay, broadening the attack significantly. Audience reaction.
Applause from the Democratic side, the source notes. The host then turned to Kennedy about this market manipulation charge.
And Kennedy's take.
Report describes a thin smile, eyes glinting, called Schiff a master at spinning horror stories, painting Trump as a supervillain.
Dismissive language.
Very. And on the Truth Social post specifically, Kennedy apparently used humor on a social media post. By that logic, I guess we need to investigate the whole country every time I praise my mom's gumbo.
Okay, deflecting with a joke? Did that work?
Got a huge laugh, the report says. But Schiff, his eyes hardening, didn't let it go.
He stayed on it.
Yeah, told Kennedy he could joke, but the American people aren't laughing when their wallets are hit. Repeated the tariffs point, prices up from food to cars. Kennedy's own constituents paying more.
Bringing it back to the economic impact.
And called the JFK thing a stunt again. Then looked at Kennedy and asked directly, "You're defending a president who puts personal gain above the nation's interest? How do you explain that to your voters?"
Putting the accountability question squarely on Kennedy.
Kennedy's response, per the source, kept that sharp smile, tilted his head, said Schiff loves playing the savior but underestimates the public. They aren't fools.
Implying the public sees through Schiff's arguments.
Seems so. Claimed people see Trump doing what past administrations didn't dare. He restated the tariff argument, getting countries begging to negotiate, calling that American strength, not a personal game.
And the JFK files.
Kennedy flipped it. Claimed Trump did what you Democrats only promised, revealing the truth to the public. Then challenged Schiff. Or are you scared that truth makes you look bad?
Turning the accusation back on Schiff. That sounds like a real escalation.
Report says the audience erupted again. Schiff's face got tense. He called Kennedy's truth claim a stunt, arguing it didn't bring justice, just Trump deflecting from his failures.
So, sticking to his guns.
Absolutely. Insisted tariffs made Americans pay more while benefiting Trump's allies. And then, the report says, Schiff really upped the ante.
How so?
He demanded a transparent investigation into that Truth Social post. Asked Kennedy directly, "Do you dare support that?"
Wow, a direct challenge for an investigation. How did Kennedy handle that?
Well, the host jumped in first, pressing Kennedy on whether more transparency was needed. Kennedy, with that chuckle again, said Schiff talked about transparency like he's an angel.
Okay, more deflection.
And then an attack. Claimed Schiff spent a decade chasing Trump from impeachment to now, with not one shred of solid evidence, just stories to make headlines.
Bringing up Schiff's history with Trump investigations.
Yeah. And then Kennedy suggested maybe probe the prior administration's spending if Schiff wants investigations. Audience roared again, report says.
Turning the tables completely. Schiff's reaction.
Eyes flashing with anger, shot back that Kennedy could hide behind jokes, but the American people deserve the truth. Argued Trump hyping his stock is about his wallet and not voters.
Reasserting the conflict of interest claim.
And put it directly on Kennedy. You as a senator have a duty to demand accountability, not cover it up. Pointed at him and asked, whose side are you on, the people's or Trump's?
That is about as direct as it gets. The atmosphere must have been electric.
Report describes a chaotic mix of boos and claps, a really charged atmosphere. Host calmed things down, asked Kennedy to respond to that direct question.
And Kennedy, still smiling.
Smile still there, eyes glinting. Responded slowly, almost sarcastically, like a folksy storyteller. Told Schiff he spun tales like Trump was a villain, but urged him to cut to the chase.
Meaning?
He pressed Schiff for proof again. Where's the proof? Got anything solid, or are you just weaving stories to keep the audience glued to their screens? Report mentioned someone holding up a Trump is the best sign then.
Adding to the pressure on Schiff. How did Schiff respond to the demand for proof?
Source says he clenched his jaw, showed a hint of unease, fingers tapping. The host stepped in again, asking Schiff to respond with specific details.
Okay, so Schiff is really being pressed for concrete evidence now.
He stood tall, voice firm but with a tinge of urgency. Said, Senator Kennedy, the truth is crystal clear. Repeated the points. Tariffs have driven up prices. The Truth Social post wasn't just talk, but a calculated move to boost his stock while the market reeled.
Calling it a clear conflict of interest.
Yes, and asked again, how can Kennedy defend a president putting his wallet above the people's interests?
Did Kennedy engage with those specifics?
Not directly, it seems. Leaned back, sly smile. Told Schiff he kept preaching about hardship, but was aiming at the wrong guy.
Meaning Trump's actions are justified.
Kennedy reiterated tariffs were putting us back on top, making countries scramble to negotiate, dismissed the Truth Social post as just Trump being Trump, talking big, thinking big.
So brushing it off as personality, not substance.
Pretty much. Then Kennedy pivoted again, challenging Schiff. Why not dig into the billions poured into pointless projects under the last administration, or does that hit too close to home?
Another deflection, trying to shift the focus. Schiff's response.
Narrowed his eyes, refused to play deflection games, said, this isn't about the past, it's about the present. Repeated his core claim. Trump's actions show a pattern of abuse of power.
Garcia order ignored. Tariffs enriching allies.
Right. And he repeated the challenge. Are you standing with the people or just covering for Trump?
Okay, bringing it back to that core question of allegiance.
Kennedy leaned forward, smile sharper, said Americans aren't fools, elected Trump because he acts. Reiterated tariffs bring jobs, protect borders.
The action versus talk argument.
Exactly. Then Kennedy asked Schiff straight. You've been investigating Trump for a decade, from impeachment to now. What do you have besides accusations, or are you just heating up the stage to score votes?
Oof. That's directly challenging Schiff's entire record on Trump. The audience
exploded, report says. Applause like crashing waves.
Wow. The host then tried to get more details from Schiff on evidence.
Yeah, acknowledged the fiery debate, asked Schiff again for more detail.
And Schiff, the pressure must have been immense.
Eyes flashing, took a deep breath. Source notes his voice was slightly trembling now. Insisted Kennedy used folksy talk to deflect, but the people deserve the truth. Repeated his points again. Ignoring courts, tariffs, the stock post. That's not leadership, that's abuse of power.
Sticking to his message, despite the pressure.
Challenged Kennedy again. Dare you tell your voters they should pay the price for these stunts?
But the host pressed Schiff again for specific evidence. Or was it just politics?
Yes, the host sensed the shift, asked if this was specific evidence or part of an anti-Trump campaign.
Putting Schiff in a tough spot. How did he reply?
Deep breath, gripped the podium, eyes determined but showing the pressure. Said he wasn't there for political games, but the truth. Listed the Garcia case, tariffs, Truth Social post as clear evidence of a conflict of interest.
So, presenting those as his evidence.
Concluded that using power for personal gain isn't leadership, it's abuse. Called for that transparent investigation again, challenging Kennedy to support it. If he truly cares about the people, Democratic side applauded.
Okay, he laid out his case again. But Kennedy's response. The source says he was unshaken.
Leaned forward, predator sharpness. Called Schiff a lawyer in a courtroom, but said, let's be honest.
Uh-oh, what came next?
Kennedy reiterated, Schiff had pursued Trump since the day he took office, throwing out every accusation, demanded one piece of concrete evidence, not just talk, proving Trump deliberately put his interests above the country.
Raising the bar for evidence, demanding proof of intent.
And then the final challenge. Or are you just staging a drama to win votes while the American people want a leader who acts like Trump has?
Audience exploded again. Cheers like thunder.
That sounds like the breaking point. How did Schiff react to that?
The source says he faltered briefly, unease showing. Voice became slightly trembling as he tried to respond.
What'd you say?
Senator Kennedy, you want evidence. The evidence is the skyrocketing prices people are paying. Then, the evidence is Trump's post, hyping his stock. And the evidence is your silence, Kennedy, when you refuse to call for an investigation. You're not standing with the people, you're standing with Trump.
So turning Kennedy's refusal to investigate into evidence itself.
But Kennedy, report says, sensed weakness. He stood up, a rare move. Audience went silent.
Wow. Standing up changes the dynamic completely. Kennedy's tone became icy, no humor left. Spoke of people electing Trump because he acts brings jobs back, forces China and the EU to beg for negotiations. Pressed Schiff again. In your decadal-long hunt for Trump, from impeachment to now what have you found besides baseless accusations?
Relentless pressure.
And then the final blow. If you're really for the people, why not investigate those who truly bled America dry before Trump, or do you just want this stage to play the hero?
Bringing up the past administration again, questioning Schiff's motives. Schiff's reaction.
Report describes it vividly. Face flushed, eyes wavering, tried to respond, voice now clearly trembling, saying he wasn't there to play your games. But his words lacked force.
He couldn't recover.
Faltered, stammered. I've made it clear the evidence is Trump's actions plain for the nation to see.
And the audience.
His words were drowned in the boos from the Maggie crowd. Shouts of, speak, Schiff, where's the evidence?
Oh, wow. Kennedy's reaction.
Sat back down, report says, with a victorious smile.
Right.
Schiff was left standing, face beet red, eyes burning with anger but helpless.
And then, the walk-off.
Schiff dropped the microphone. Piercing thud.
Dropped the mic, literally.
Shouted, I'm not here to play cheap political games with you, Kennedy! Voice breaking with rage, turned and stormed off the stage.
Just like that. Wow. The aftermath must have been immediate.
Stunned silence, then deafening cheers. Social media exploded instantly. Hashtags, clips spreading like wildfire.
And Kennedy on stage. What did he do?
Stayed calm, slight shrug. Said he just wanted clarity, argued Trump acts, and Schiff didn't like his own answer. More cheers, Kennedy #1 shouts.
And the source mentions some Democrats left.
Yeah, some Democratic audience members apparently walked out then.
The report gives a glimpse backstage too, right? Schiff first.
Alone, clenching fists, mix of frustration and resolve, muttered, I can't let them win like this.
Thinking about the long fight.
Yeah, reflecting on years confronting Trump, being called a traitor, resolved, I won't stop. Saw that viral post, Schiff flees out of tricks. Gripped his phone, but put it down. Told himself far from over.
So already planning the next move.
Immediately told an aide, prepare to demand a public investigation into the Truth Social post. Eyes steely, tired smile, hint of bitterness. Said he wasn't there for theatrics. People need truth. Resolve flashed in his eyes, battle far from over.
Intense. And Kennedy backstage.
Among fans, wide smile, gleaming eyes, told him he didn't want anyone to walk away, just asked, where's the truth? Shrugged. If Schiff couldn't answer, that's not my fault.
Thinking to his narrative.
Said people want leaders who act like Trump, not baseless accusations. Rallied the crowd. We've got to keep America strong. Trump's doing that.
But the report mentions some private thoughts.
Yeah, a hint of contemplation. Wondered if Schiff, despite today's defeat, would return with a stronger counterattack. Later saw the Kennedy crushes Schiff headline, smiled faintly, but still that contemplation, thinking of voters, divided America.
Acknowledging the ongoing fight, maybe?
Told himself just keep telling the truth, but knew Schiff wasn't one to stay down.
And the social media aspect. The report emphasizes that.
Hugely. How narratives formed instantly. Schiff exposed versus Schiff defending truth. Hashtags dominating. Clips shared millions of times. Really shaping how people saw it.
The amplification effect. What about supporters outside?
Democrats, frustrated, felt Schiff was protecting them, but Kennedy made it a joke. One felt he shouldn't have left, but understood Kennedy's tactics, believed Schiff would come back stronger. Source called it a prophecy.
Interesting. And Kennedy got praise from colleagues.
Text from a Republican. Great job, John. You gave Schiff a lesson. Kennedy's reply. Thanks, but we've got to keep working. Shows the pressure continues even after a win.
So the report draws some broader conclusions from all this.
Yeah, sees it as reflecting deep political polarization, debates becoming emotional battlegrounds, not just idea exchanges.
And the audience and social media frenzy mirror that wider societal state.
Exactly. The deep divide, social media amplifying conflict, turning everything into a battle for attention.
Does the source offer any lessons, maybe, for navigating this stuff?
It does. Talks about the need to stay calm and focus on the truth even under crowd pressure. Controlling emotions is key. Avoid getting dragged into personal attack games.
And communication styles.
Points to Kennedy's humor and folksy language as skillful communication, but warns it shouldn't obscure the truth. Suggests for you, the listener, it's about critical listening, avoiding social media manipulation, focusing on constructive dialogue if possible.
Okay, so recapping this deep dive into the source report, we saw the arguments clash, Garcia case, tariffs, market manipulation claims, the constant demand for proof.
Leading up to that really dramatic walk-off, which, as the source suggests, wasn't just about emotion, right? It showed how intense pressure can corner even seasoned politicians.
Yeah, and the whole thing, the debate itself, the crowd, the instant online explosion, it really holds up a mirror to our current political climate, how debates become battles.
How social media just pours gasoline on the fire.
And the source leaves us with those takeaways. Stay calm, seek truth, be aware of communication tactics, listen critically.
But given everything we just unpacked from this report, the sheer intensity, the division, the clear determination from both Schiff and Kennedy that this fight is far from over, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
What does it really take for us, for you listening, for we the people, to actually stay calm and focus on the truth when politics feels this heated, this personal? How do we even navigate this?
Or, maybe put another way, thinking about that hint in the source. Is finding common ground even possible for figures like these, or for the country they represent? Or are we just stuck in this whirlwind of endless battles?